Hello everyone. Welcome to the next training topic. The next topic for training is default values. Under default values we'll be covering define default values. Second is enable fiscal year default. Third, default value date. And fourth, change message control for default processing. So these are the four configuration steps within the topic default values. So before proceeding, what do you mean by default values? The default values are the system proposed input values like document type, fiscal year, value or posting date, which you can accept as such and proceed further to process a document or a transaction, or you can change them to new values as per your requirement. So basically default values are by default assigned certain values within the system, as said, like document type. When we process certain transactions, we find certain default document type already assigned on those particular transactions screen, that is the default document type. Similarly, at times we find that the fiscal year or the value date is coming up on the screen of the transaction as default. Those are the default values, but how does they come? For that there are certain settings, certain customizations needs to be done, so that the next time whenever you process that particular value date or the fiscal year or those document type appears to you on the screen for those particular transactions. So we'll see that how those things are done in today's training. So moving up with the first configuration step, that is define default values. Now in this particular customization, we define default document type and posting keys for a transaction code which otherwise entered by the user when processing the transaction. So there are certain such default transactions which have already defined with the document type or the posting keys, which system pre-populate in the standard SAP system for most of the commonly used transactions like F-02, F-05, F-22, etc. And a lot of such transactions are there to go for. So let's see how this has been done, how SAP has defaulted these transaction type with the posting keys for certain transaction codes in the system. So moving up in the SAP system, we need to go to the transaction SPRO, enter, then click on SAP reference IMG. Now we need to go to financial accounting new, and then expand financial accounting global setting, and within financial accounting global setting we need to go to documents, expand, and in this you will find default values as one of the topic for customization. So if we expand this default values option over here on the screen, you will find the four steps that we just have pointed out, which we will be doing up in today's training. So the first point, as we discussed, is the one which has the default document type and posting keys for certain transaction which has been defaulted by SAP standard system. So executing the first step, as you can see, as I clicked on to define default values, there is a pop-up screen on your system which you can see objects can only be created in SAP packages. So you cannot simply go and customize these document type and posting keys for any transactions. For that you need SAP packages. SAP package is a code which you need to receive from the SAP, and for that there is certain requirements which need to be fulfilled. So now you can enter on the screen or click onto that green tick mark as a continue, and as I clicked, again a next pop-up screen came up to you, and it says caution, the table is cross client. So it says that whatever you're gonna do over here, in case you do with the package, it will impact the cross client, it will impact all the client connected with this particular client. So click onto the tick mark or enter, and you can see now on the screen that this is the screen coming up to you, and you can see these all transaction codes have been defaulted by a particular document type on the screen to you. So these are those document type, when you execute the transaction, these comes as a default to you. However you want, you can change them. Just for an example, if you go to a transaction from over here, suppose, so opening a new session and then executing the transaction f-02 for you, so enter, and you will see as I enter on the screen, there is a default document type SA is defined to you. And similarly on the below side, you will find the posting key 40 as a default coming up onto the screen. So how does this is coming? This is coming up with the default values assigned over here, f-02, SA and 40. Similarly, if you execute any of these transactions, whatever the values defaulted over here as document type or posting keys will be displayed to you. So you can display those values and that will be displayed to you. It doesn't mean that you need to go with these values. No, if you want, you can change these values as per your requirement as you wish. So as I have changed it, so it's up to you, but the SAP has provided these as a default values because of the usage of it, and these are the number of different transactions. As you can see, even you can see DR, DG, then KZ, DZ. So if you go for any, like if you go for incoming payment for customer for F-28, you will find DZ as a default document type, and that is what the document type which has been taken up for the incoming payment by the customer. So by now you must have done these different documents for customer vendors. You must have already been gone through, and you would be knowing by now that for customer invoices, DR is created. For customer payment, DZ document type is created. Even for customer down payment, DZ is created. For that, the transaction code is FDES29, and these are the document type which are defaulted on the screen. So you don't put these transaction these document type, the system automatically take this document type as DZ or whatever has been defaulted to it. So you don't need to go and change anything in it. We never do changes in these standard defaulted document type and posting keys, as we already saw that there was a message coming up that for changing you need SAP package key for that. But even we recommend not to change these things, let it be as standard they are. So this is just to have an overview that what does the default values means, and that is it. So we just saw that how the define default values is all about. So the first configure step is just about to give you an overview how the document type and the posting keys are assigned to the transaction codes in the SAP system. Now moving up to the next step is enable fiscal year default. The very next step in the same configure step, as you can see on the screen, enable fiscal year default. Now in this customization, the system proposes a fiscal year for document display and for document change functions. The system uses the year which was last used by the user in the work session, though this can be changed. So what the system does in these cases, whatever the fiscal year you have used earlier in the last session or in the last time, the system remembers that and default that fiscal year for usage for the future. But in case you want, you can change the fiscal year manually. There is nothing as you cannot change. So but what it does, it just for the convenience, it picks that particular last fiscal year used as a default values for the further transactions. So how that has been done, you can again go and execute the second step, enable fiscal year default, click on to execute, and now it will take you to the second step. As you can see, change view default fiscal year overview. So you can see the company codes are defined over here on to the right hand side of yours, sorry, on the left hand side of yours, and on the right hand side you will find there is a proposed fiscal year checkbox is there. So in case you want your company code to default this fiscal year as per the last usage, you just need to do is you need to checkbox this over here. So suppose I checkbox, in my case I checkbox my company code 1200 for so that it can have the proposed fiscal year as default. System will take it. So to activate that default fiscal year setup or customization, you just need to select the checkbox and then go and save the customization. So that's what I did, and I saved it, and it will be saved. Continue. So this is about the second step, that is default fiscal year. It's a very simple customizations to do. Then moving up to the third, now before moving up to the third, enable fiscal year default, there is a note for you that this option is only used for company codes working with year dependent document number range. So if you are defining new document number range every year, in that case only this will be applicable. Now moving to the third configuration, or you can say the customization, is default value date. In this, you enable the system to propose the CPU date as the default value date when you enter the line items in a document. So default value date, before moving to that, I hope by now you understand what is a value date. When you do number of transactions especially related to payment or incoming payment or outgoing payment, you find there is a field for value date, and that what we need to do is we need to put certain date, but basically that date refers to the current date. So if you want, you can default the current system date as the value date, and that has been done with this particular customization. So by this we can default the system date or the CPU date, you can say, as the default date for those outgoing or incoming line items wherever the value date field is used. So if we go and click on to this third step, as you can see, now it takes you to the next screen, and again the same thing, there is no different as per the last step and this step. What you need to do is you just need to select this checkbox again against the company code, and in this you can see the proposed value date field name is over here. So you just need to select this checkbox, and as you select and save the customization, it will get defaulted for the value date wherever the value date field is used for in any of the transactions in the system. So now we can go and we can save the screen, and this will be defaulted for that. So there's nothing, just we need to do is we need to specify the company code for which we want the CPU date to be defaulted as the value date. So that's what you need to do. Now moving up to the next step is change message control for document processing. Now in this you can configure the appearance of system messages according to your requirement. Even if you proceed, you can determine whether a message is output as a note in a dialog box or in the footer. You can change the warning to error message. You can change the error message to warning message. Even we want, we can deactivate the warning message or the error messages as per the convenience. So this is why the change message control for document processing is used, but changing the messages from error to warning or warning to error is something which is very delicate thing, which need a lot of approvals, a lot of care has to be taken for that, whether those things need to be converted from error to warning or not. So a lot of things, a lot of decisions are involved in that. And if we move and execute this step, change message control, you can see now the system asks you for the application area. So you need to select the application area in which you want to go and change the message. So the application area used in SAP FI module basically is F5 or F5A for the messages. So if you go for F5, we can select F5, and once you have selected, because if you go for searching it with the search options or F4 key, you probably may not find it. So you should know that F5 is one of the key and the another is F5A. So you can go and select F5 or type F5 and then enter, and it will take you to the next screen. As you can see, in F5, that is document editing, there is already a message defined, that is 378. The message says purchase document is allowed to asset, and you can see the online message is W, batch is this, and the standard message is E, that is error, which has been converted to warning. So similarly, you can also convert these messages from error to warning or warning to error depending upon the requirement, and then you can save it and the message will be changed from error to warning or warning to error as you wish to. So that is one of these options which you can try. And if you go and see for F5A, so if you go for F5A, again in that you will find the same thing which you can try at your end. So you can see for F5A there is no message as of now. If you want, you can add with new entries. So this is how you can change these messages, but will request not to change the messages till the last resort, because changing message is not suggested. So this is all about the default values, the 4 different config steps that we discussed, and that is all about the default value topic all about. It's basically a small topic compared, which cover the various default things how we can define in SAP FI module, like the document type, the posting keys, then fiscal year, and the default value date. So this is all about the default value part. We'll see you with a new topic shortly. Till then, thank you, take care, have a nice day.